Dennis, today is your birthday. It's a big day, and I would like that you talk a little bit about your history and what it means to be a martial artist like you, because you're a legend and you inspire so many people, and you're a real institution for the martial arts in the world.
Well, I'd like to give you, first of all, a bit of my background, because without the background, you could never understand how I got to all this. I was a child in South Africa, at the age of 4, homeless, and I stayed in many homes. And most of all, what was in my mind as a young boy, behind a fence, and somebody, especially a youngster of 4 or 5, who has no love from family, and being a Jew, I was the only Jew in this particular place, because Jewish children usually have a good background and have a big family to look after them. But I was the only Jew amongst many Gentiles, and I was brought up to be known as the Black Jew and hated by everybody. And many years to live this particular life was a very difficult life, because everybody at a young age, it's in his mind and his heart, because everybody wants love, family, a place to stay, and have respect. Now, when you take this away from him, he has nothing. And that's why many years later in Israel, I work with unwanted children, children behind bars, children who have no hope and no family. And I believe that only a person who has gone through all this can understand. Another great and difficult thing was, only my father came out of Poland. The Nazis killed all his family. And this was ingrained into me, what it is to be a Jew, and afterwards what the Holocaust was. But by many years in this particular life, I went up into the nature, onto the hills, which I love very much, nature. And I decided at a young age I wanted to commit suicide. But I feel that somebody came to me, and my feeling it was God giving me a mission to do. And from that day onwards, I made 6 respects. Respect to God, respect to your country, to your parents, your teachers, and your friends, and you last of all. Now, I found out also ego. There's a good ego to be a champion, and there's an ego. Today, everybody has such an ego of himself. But a martial artist doesn't just come from the air. There's always a background. Now, I never had a teacher in my life. I never went to school. I never had education. And I never had love. And then I found, in the end of many years, my mother gave me a bar mitzvah. And I learned, what is it a Jew? What is a Jew? And in later years, because my mother gave me a bar mitzvah, I made in Israel 700 unwanted children bar mitzvah. So everything has a background. Everything has a direction. And then coming to Israel, and seeing the land of the Jews and the Israelis. I think there's two different things. There's a Jew, there's a religious Jew, there's a Jew, normal, and the Israelis are something completely different. Now, I also believe that to find out what is anti-Semitism, you have to go through it, number one. And then coming to the country you love, a kibbutz or moshav, a community place, which my wife and me came, to pick up 100-kilo sacks, to pick up rocks off the field, to be a tractorist, to clean the garbage, to have a house with a fridge with only ice, to have one cooking pot, that a person, especially an Israeli, to understand what it is to work on the land and become part of the land. And by an early age, I learned to survive in the streets. I learned to be a champion of running. I learned to run away, and then I learned to fight, to stand up and fight. In this way, I learned what it was to survive in the streets. But one day, a young Jewish man who learned judo came to me and said, "Come and learn the art of judo." At the age of 15, for the first time, I saw certain techniques and it drew it to me. But I also learned at that age, one attack, one kill. You can become a champion on one technique, which went through all my life. And I was a champion of South Africa with one technique. And coming to this moshav, moledet, this kibbutz, I was lucky enough to have many people like me from all over the world, from America, from Morocco, from France, people who study in Japan. And we all started to learn together the martial arts. The gun fru from Avram Holbert from America, and the jiu-jitsu techniques. The Shayun from Sidney Fager. The beautiful judo from Danny Waxman. And then Gadi Skornik. And then Yossi Lev, who had polio. We learned to teach blind and deaf people. From Edmund Brazoglu from Morocco. Judo and karate. Now the mat we started off was with sawdust after the day's work. And then I started to understand martial arts is a complete way of life. You've got to live it, eat it, smell it, drink it. And I know I've given my whole life to the martial arts. And by studying and learning all these different types of techniques, you get to understand there's not one superior technique. It's like sitting down at a meal and having the bread, the butter, the meat, the salads, the sugar, the cake. To be able to learn from many people a different way and to be able to study together, that's another thing. To respect each other. And not to say, I, ego. You are part of the universe and part of the nature. You've got to understand nature, the animals, the trees, the quietness. Because people today with their ego and money and self-gain and this new world of telephones, People have changed completely. I believe in three things: the good, the bad, and the smilers. The smilers are the worst because they only do for themselves. At least the bad, you know who it is. And that's the three colors of a robot: red, yellow, and green. Now, if you don't take the fighting ability to nature, if you take a motor car, and I've been driving a motor for 60 years, never had an accident. It's thousands of times repetition. That is it. You've got to be a master of repetition of techniques. And you've got to know, just like a motor car. If you get in a motor car, or you get into a fight, tired, or drunk, or under dope, or the telephone, and your mind is not concentrated where you're going and what you're going, you have to see the accident before it happens. And this I found out on the mat. Now, by being a professional is your second timing to put the brakes on the clutch, and most of all the distance. You always have a distance in front of you, and you always see the mirrors at the back of you. So you can control yourself and know something before it happens. Now, this motor car way was part of my system of training myself. But training is a way of life, what you do from morning to night. Now, I've been injured many, many times, but I never break, never turn my head down, I never give you my back. And I've been in 5 wars, never been injured, because I believe that God gave me something to teach and to do for mankind and my country. By learning so many people, from so many people their way, but you have to understand yourself first, your mind, your heart, your body, your spirit, your chi, and your whole feelings. You have to read a lot. Every day I read. I see the animal program. I do 10 kilometers on my bike because my knees are no good. I love the music, the quietness, and the nature of life. This is part of the system. Now you can have killers and you can have champions. But I believe to be the best, you've got to give your whole complete life. Now I've been with my wife for 66 years. So many people cannot even live with each other. So how can you be a fighter when you can't even trust and believe in one or the other? I started the first gyms in Israel by myself. No mats, sawdust. I made the gym, painted the gym, and waited for people. But you must never wait. You're going to find them. But you have to be a fighter. You have to know your mind. You have to have a strong mind. And you learn never to put your head down, your back, and you never break. There were times when I walked today with my knees, and they just collapse. But you carry on. You carry on. because there's nobody to help you but yourself. And in this way, to understand that you can take anything, mentally, physically, spiritually. And if you fall, you get up. Now, I have so much pain sometimes that I haven't got no more pain. You get to a stage, we're in another world. So when you talk about martial arts, I'm trying to tell you it's a lifetime to get there and a lifetime to keep. Now, there are not many people in the world. I now stay in my gym. This gym is 40 years old. And I stay in a 1.5 room with my wife, with 70 cats and dogs and birds. Because you've got to live with nature to learn how the animals fought. The animals survived by fighting in many different ways. And by studying people and studying the good and the bad, learning how Hitler went his way, and Churchill, and Stalin, and all our great generals of Israel, to make your mind not sleep, always thinking, always doing. And if you can make your pupil better than yourself, you've achieved. Many teachers are afraid their pupils will be better than them. It's the opposite. If your pupils can be better than you, you've achieved a lot of things. Now I'm going to get back to the techniques. If I take Kansho Oyama, he was the first man who made fighting karate Kyokushinkai. I was lucky enough, with Gideon Kadari and Danny Waxman, who studied in Japan, to go to the first championship in Japan in 1975. Now, when I left Moledet and came to the town, my techniques was one big jumble. I learned the sport karate, which was Shotokan, Goju-ryu, Wado-ryu, Shito-ryu, and Kyokushinkai. And most of it all was the dance, the beautiful katas, which is beautiful. I didn't understand that it's also very important to understand the sport techniques. Like a dancer. You can be a great dancer but not a fighter. But you can take certain things from the dancing, the flowing, the beauty. So never say one thing is much better than the other. It's just you've got to put it into proportion. Now by learning the judo, which Jigoro Kano, 1882, what was his three main things? Movement, taking your movement, breaking his balance, and throwing him in one technique. Movement, balance, and throwing in one shot, one attack. Now when we took blind people and they put their feet on the mat and they started to slide their feet, and by holding the person they could do judo and be black belts. Now if a blind person can be a champion by giving him the way, it's called the way, the chi, the direction. I saw that the art, first of all, of judo was something very special. Now the judo came from the jiu-jitsu. And by learning the techniques against the fingers, the arms, the elbows, the knees, you saw it was a continuation of fighting. The flowing of the judo of the body, the leg, the hip, the shoulder. Inside techniques, outside techniques, and going from one technique to the other. Sacrifice techniques. You saw the judo was so beautifully done. And then the Russians came in and made what you called their way of fighting. And the Japanese, the sumo, which they used powerful strength. And the judo started to change, not to be only the beauty, but to have the complete power of strength. So everything changes. But I believe that a person must learn judo. And then, as I say, there's so many styles of karate, the beauty, the katas, to give you the flowing and the precise movement, which is good to learn. And then Oyama made the Kyokushin, and I was lucky enough to get to the Japanese championship in '75. And he showed you a complete different way. The breaking techniques with your fist, with your elbow, with your head, with the chop, breaking ice, 5 blocks, jumping over a motorcar. They trained these men and people of survival. It was no more just a sport. And he put in the first time full contact, but not to the face, and you weren't allowed to throw. And I saw many countries from all over the world, and I saw a karate which many people were knocked down, knocked out, and injured. It's another way of fighting. And only by participating yourself and understanding what type of karate this was, can you understand what the beginning of what karate was. I was never the best fighter or the best technician, but I learned to have 2 or 3 main techniques. I could have a punch which would knock you. By being close, I would use my knee, and by learning the judo, every time I fought the champion in the air, he was Bruce Lee in the air. Was the best technician. The Japanese took him to give the exhibition. Never lost the fight. So fast and so quick. I would turn around, he would be there. How could me? I was the oldest man, 37 years old, fighting the American champion, never lost. The Japanese took him to make the technician. I think they took him there to show how black man could knock out a Jew. That was my feeling. But I learned how to absorb everything. He punched and he kicked me, but I managed to close my face. Otherwise, there were times he kicked me, I went back 3 meters. But I never broke. And I waited only as much as I could to get close to him. And when he flew in the air, I would grab him in the air and throw him to the ground. I could see in his eyes shock. And we went 3 circles of fight. Now, it was knock out or knock down. He was down from me 3 times, but the Japanese didn't want to give me the fight overall. He kicked and he knocked me, but I never went down once. But Oyama was a gentleman. After the 3 rounds, I was fighting only on spirit. I had no strength. I had no air. I was battered. And the judges gave Oliver the fight. And Oyama himself said, no, I will make this a tackle fight. And in their law, a man who's 10 kilos less, he takes the fight. But this fight was the only fight what would become a draw. And by giving your spirit and your fight, I bought Oyama, and we became great friends. But I learned that this particular karate was the beginning of competition, hard fighting. And this was a great thing, to be able to compete and to be able to feel and see the Japanese at their best. But there was something missing. You couldn't punch to the face, and you couldn't throw. And this stayed in my mind. After going back, and I was friendly with Oyama, and he respected me. In the first page of his book, you see Oliver down and me above him, and he spoke about me of respect, of what you do for your country. And that is it. Can you gain respect and honor from a different country and a different style? And I went back, and Oyama himself gave me a 3rd dan of Kyokushin. I was already a 5th dan of Israeli karate, which was more of a jumble. But by him making me president with Gidon Kadari, the other 3 people with me were knocked down or knocked out. And when you knock down or knock out, you go through a terrible feeling that you were knocked out or knocked down. And many people cannot take this, of losing respect. So the will to fight and the will not to lose is the greatest thing. Now, how can you put this into a pupil, which I learned after? But already in my mind, the karate sport, and I put this in the 10th Maccabian. I was president, with 15 countries, the sport karate. It was a great success, but there was no hard fighting. And I couldn't understand it. But that's why you have to learn everything. And being in the Kyokushinkai for over 15 years teaching, but I said it wasn't enough. You had to put the judo, you had to put the sport karate, you had to put the fighting karate. But was lacking the self-defense of the jiu-jitsu, because judo comes from jiu-jitsu. But even in Japan, when they put the masters of judo and the masters of Japan together, because the judo is a body movement and the jiu-jitsu is a lock movement, the judo won 8 fights to 2. And this made me think, how can you get to a person in self-defense, when somebody take your whole body and throw you, or somebody like Aikido, which is very great, but I've never seen an Aikido just fight on clean Aikido beat a boxer or a karatist with everything. But you have to learn also the way of the Aikido, the complete circle, the movement of body and your opponent, which is great. It's opened my mind too that Jiu-Jitsu was a technique you had to put in to learn for self-defense. And learn the idea of the Aikido, of the complete circle of the way, of using the momentum of your pupil. And then I said to myself, but there's great boxing champions, Joe Louis, Jack Dempsey, such great masters. And then I took two boxers to make such a effect on me. It was Cassius Clay, or Muhammad Ali, in his way of fighting. And then I took Tyson, the powerhouse. And Tyson would come in so strong and so powerful. He would just flood you over nobody could resist his power and his fitness and his killing instinct. And each hit was a knockout. And then you took Clay, who was a master of all. From close to far, his spirit had to fight 15 rounds and come back and be 3 times world champion. And the movement of the box. It was the greatest to see how Clay could be a champion 3 times and come back after 15 rounds. But, and this is the but, you pay for everything. Clay paid by being hit. I paid my knees and my body today. I'm 84. I can do everything. But my whole body sometimes is in so much pain, the hands, the legs, the knees, the back. A sportsman is not healthy. A dancer may be healthy. A sportsman will grow to be a broken body in the end, a fighter. Your knees are your knees, your shoulders, your ankles, your hips, your neck. It's like a car getting old. You can only change so much. But the main thing is to know yourself, your mind, and know your enemy. You hit your enemy when he's not ready and when he's weak. And that's the name of the game. One decisive blow should try to finish the fight. And you get the greatest Japanese swordsman who killed all his opponents, but he stopped at a young age of 26 or 36. So I've learned. And then you got the style on the ground, where you see the ground fighting. You see the locks, which wasn't on your legs, like judo. So important. And then you see the grappling, the wrestling. The Russian wrestling is so strong. So I decided, but that's not self-defense. In Israel, you have to know in the world self-defense. And then by studying and seeing my friend Bram Fram from the beginning manipulate the knife, I could see one man with a knife could kill 5 opponents in seconds. With the wrist, how the hand, the eye, by doing thousands of manipulations and techniques, one cut, one attack. To combine everything, the leg, the hand, in. And then I invented the circle of life, where you go to the points of the body and you understand how to kill your opponent with one touch in the right area. Never be close. It's like in a marathon. You always got to keep your distance. And you always got to be movement, like clay in a circle. And same with your hand. You've always got to be close. You've got to be able to kick, punch, and hit in 1 second. You've got to size up your opponent. Big, strong, weak, fast. Know your opponent. Know your enemy. But know yourself. Thousands of repetitions. Speed, quick, to the right point. Had to combine then the stick. People attack you with a stick outside. A knife, a stick. And in terror today, anybody can pick up a knife and stab you from the back. A knife is usually come from the back and come from the top. Or they hit you. They can kill 3 policemen. A young kid of 16, because he catches you in surprise. Pum, pum, pum. He's already stabbed 3 people. Because he doesn't go halfway. He knows they're going to kill him. And what's the easiest is to come and that is the point of a knife. So by being not aware and having backup, you always have backup. He watches your back and his fingers on the trigger. The moment somebody puts his hand in, you shoot him. You don't think twice. If he's coming to your area. Because if not, he'll kill you. 1 life. Now, everybody can pick up a stick and hit you on the head. And learning from the basic of a stick, how to block and injure your opponent and go through the points. It's like a rifle, using it. How to use the rifle is the same thing as a stick. But a stick, everybody can have a stick inside you, in your leg. And in Israel, I saw that one terrorist had a machete inside his leg. And he killed 15 children in 5 minutes. 5, as fast as it can be. Before anybody could stop him. Anybody can kill you with a knife. And the trouble today, husbands are killing their own wives every year, every day. And you talk about self-defense. I've taught all my life, and my daughter is championed. I have only 2 women of 8th Dan, and I can only say I've seen a couple of outstanding women, but 90% of the women can never get up to the standard of being able to look after herself in the street or against a husband who wants to kill her. Now, why do the police, and I have taught everything and anybody, take the self-defense, that much. They go in and out to shoot, and they have fitness. But when it comes to self-defense, it's every day. I said to the army, every day the man comes and does his exercise, hitamlut, he makes self-defense. You have to do self every day of your life. And that's not done anywhere in the world. The police, the army, the security, they teach you a course. What's the course? You've got to live it, eat it, and smell it. And that takes time. So nobody really is professional against a killer or an assassin. Only very few people. So we come again to this. The pistol. Everyone has a pistol. Now, I haven't seen in my lifetime a policeman or somebody that he can take a pistol from a person. A knife, which should be done self-defense, 90% and 10% of the gun is the opposite. Because it's easy to shoot and easy to practice and easy not to get hurt. So people concentrate a lot on the gun when it should be the knife and close combat. Now, once you're on the ground, and I was in South Africa, so when you're on the ground, you are dead. They'll pick up a rock and brush your head in. They'll kick you to pieces and kill you with a kicking. Once you're down, you're finished. You cannot be taken down. Have to be able to fall so well and try to make it a way of life. Now, it took me a lifetime to try to understand, to take the fighting style and the way of Kyokushin, to take the sport karate for the beauty, to take the judo for the push-pull, to take the boxing, to really learn to punch and to fight. But the knife, which should be practiced more than anything else, which is dangerous, and unless you cut, you understand. And I learned one cut, one attempt. Finished. You already cut him and stabbed him. And defense, you already have to combine, as I said, to be able to block, punch, and kick and get to the next technique, non-stop. But people want to grab. They learn the jiu-jitsu and they do. The first thing is to, and that's when you get cut. You've got to disable your person by vital point, by one chop, one kick, to come into the jiu-jitsu, the beautiful lock, if you can. Stab him with the arm, and then to put him on the ground by throwing him. By kicking him, punching him, a lock, and strangle him. He must be strangled out, and you know he's finished. But many people do the self-defense, and you'll see the knife is still in his hand. Now, I know, personally, in wars which I taught, but in South Africa, I taught them self-defense, and there were crazy people with guns, and they would shoot you. I learned 3 or 4 techniques to disable him and take away his gun, because he would kill me. And that is the name of the game. 2 or 3 jiu-jitsu strangulation and locks and throwdown, take away, is the most important. to be able to block together. You don't know where it's coming. So when you block down and up from the inside and the outside, so now we come to how combine the gun, the takeaway from close, by killing him with his own pistol. So there's the karate techniques of kicking and punching, and there's the jiu-jitsu technique. By holding the gun, and he's coming in around, the gun can be pointed to him in 1 second. So you can be a champion of all these things. Now how can you, and I teach in 1 hour with my high class, all these techniques in 1 hour when they've been through the system. You have to do it 3, 4, 5 times a week, every day. Now I haven't got, the sack is such an important thing. By kicking and punching the sack. Many gyms have no place to have a lot of sacks. So they don't have sacks. People don't know how to punch and kick and feel the knock. Then by fighting 2 people in one shot, and 3 people against you, and everybody against you, coming from all sides. Now what I've been telling you now has taken me a lifetime. Not many people can give their lifetime. But if you can take what's good, you clean your stomach, you clean your mind, mentally, physically, know yourself. The bad ego is to say, me. I don't trust anybody anymore. I believe in only teaching the youngsters and the army of Israel to be strong. Because everybody's just money and ego, self-gain. Now, one other main thing. I stay in the gym, in 1.5 rooms, because people need breakfast, there's lunch and supper. Finish your breakfast, do your lunch, and that's the same thing with clothes and body. How many jackets do you need? How many overseas trips do you need? Be happy with the little things. Respect everybody. Learn from the nature and the quietness. And then learn how to shut everything off, emptiness. And I believe in God to the end. I speak to God every day. I believe God gives everybody the chance to do. And when you can be close to God and close to nature and close to the animals, you become the most of all what is called a human being. In this world of today, it's so difficult. The children learn more than the grown-ups. I live in my own world. This is my telephone. So I don't belong to anybody. But you have to understand to carry on. I have people to do all the dirty work for me. So what I'm trying to say to everybody, if you see my room, I love knives. I love the feel of the knife. I have guns. The knife is something very, very special. The beauty. And what is my life is my room. With all the knives, the guns. But I tell you something else, people. People are so full of themselves. They will come into my room where I have 1,000 things and not see anything. They will go in my gym, which is a museum. And when I say to him, and I look at everybody, I can see who he is and what he is. They will train 1 hour, 2 hours, and they don't know nothing exactly what's on the wall. And they don't ask. Now a teacher, I teach sometimes in my time 100, 200 people a day from 4 years up. But a teacher first must know his place. He must know his gym. If it's locked, if it's electricity, if there's doors, if there's a door to escape. The functioning of how to keep it going, the gym. He must smell every person. He must see everyone who comes in the door. He must see their eyes and he must see their hands. That's the main thing. He must see the color of their face. He must see if he's healthy or not. He must see if he's big and he's strong. And he must know every pupil. That's a teacher. Now, when you don't know anybody, and people want to come and train with you, and many other people come out to make you small, to show how big they are. And when they come to your home and to your way of life, it's like saying, take my wife. When he come into my property, he's coming into my life. I don't ask him to come. But if he comes in and I've seen, I watch him closely. I see how he punches the sack and what he does. I see his smile. Then I see how he works with people, with respect or not. So I know him, I know my enemy. And I'll hit him when he's least expecting him. And I'm going to tell you something now. I had the champion of Europe, young man, and he came into a class, and instead of giving me respect, he started breaking up the pupils. His techniques were much better than mine, but I can be a killer. And I said to him, right, I had nobody else to go against. And I saw he came to, I could see he's kicking and punching already on the sack. Only 1 minute he would kick me. But yeah, came the thing. I grabbed him and hit him just with a knee in the face, 17 stitches out. So fighting is not clean. When somebody comes on your territory, it must be finished. And when I couldn't finish it off for that, I had my knives and my guns. And I have a head like a rock. From close, I learned I could knock out anybody first with a kick to the balls, hit him with a knee, stomach with a kick, and finish him off. And people would say, it's not fair. But what is fair in war and peace? So I want to tell people, you can all be teachers and you can be champions. And I've made 2,500 black belts and 5 world champions and been in 6 wars and lost 27 soldiers. But I've looked after thousands of children without parents. So when a teacher comes and says, I am this, and I am this, and I am, it's what in Hebrew is called kabbalot, what you've achieved. I have so many cups and certificates and everything, I don't know where to put it. but it's yourself. Who are you and what are you? And are you prepared to give your whole life? I give grades. I don't take 1 penny for myself. I give certificates. I get a wage less than a working man. But what do you need? So if you're doing it just for money, that's something else, a business. Now I know not anybody will give 65 years of his life. He's a teacher. But when people want to think, and today everybody's a black belt and a grandmaster, what does this all become? A business. So I say to everybody, life can be beautiful. Every second is a lifetime. It's who you are and what you give to it. Now you asked me one question, I told you a lifetime of life and techniques. So I ask you, what do you understand in what I've told you and said?
You know, Dennis, I follow you for many.
Just a little bit louder. My ears are not so good.
Yeah, you know, Dennis, I follow you now so for many many years, and I see the love of your students, and this is very unique. You know what you create, it's so special. I think it's just once in the world. So if I sit here in your gym and I watch all the guys, they are strong fighters and they're perfect techniques. But the most of all, I see the love that they give you, and this is really, really, really special.
This is not a gym. This is not a dojo. It's a place to live, to be happy. I call it the family. Nearly every time after the lesson, there's a party where we enjoy each other. And when you can make a gym like this, which is not easy, especially not in Europe, and never in Japan, this is the thing. To have a word is your life. There's no, and I believe God sees it all. And I am very close to God. You don't have to be a Jew or a Christian or whatever have you. But God sees everything. And you are put here for a purpose. And nobody can have a better life than feeling he's part of God's will to do something. And me never having a teacher, never having education, I can't even read in Hebrew. I've had all the prime ministers and the presidents come to see me because this is true. And this is the greatest thing of all. To be true to God, your country, your parents, your teachers, and that's most of all. Now, I made 3 books. A simple book first, which is already 22 years old, of called The Champion Without Shoes, and that's what I was, of my life, with all the documents. And then we made, when I was 80 years old, the Hebrew book, which was done very professional. And I even had the Prime Minister and the head of all the army who respected me for what I did and what I have. But I must say, this week, I finished this book, which was written so well by 8 different people, by my daughter, Orly, by wonderful people who gave so much. The Barefoot Champion, my country, and I've been now, I was given 12th Dan, and many people, the funny thing is, a kid who's just learning, he says, you got a 12th Dan, where did you get it from? Last week. Wasn't a teacher. But I knew to get graded, I invited all the teachers of all different styles, judo, karate, shayut, jiu-jitsu, and my people. With 100 people signed for my 12th Dan. And why 12th Dan? I was 10th Dan for 20 years. And so many people already 10 Dan. So it took 20 years to go from 10th Dan to 12th Dan. And that's giving my whole life. Now, yeah, inside this book is a very important thing. You'll see the black and the white belt. My son, the Guy, this will be my belt from now, which is called the black and white. I think this is very wonderful. Now I've decided in my life that there will be no more 10th Dans. As my sons, Aaron and Guy, Yoram Yecheskel, Tzadok, Shmulik, who died, and now I've given Eagle, who was more than 10 years, 9th Dan, 10 Dan. And that is what I had, the blue and white of Israel. But the 10th Dans will have Grandmaster. Now I have already 4 9 Dans, and they will have to be 10 years, 9 Dan. Now I've made it now this year. I've graded many people for many reasons. So they can see the whole style, what we talked about. And in my lifetime, my mind is very strong, is very quick. My body is not the same. I know it. And nothing is forever. So while I'm ticking and feeling good, I decided that now's the time to grade. So we have many good grades, many high standard. But I think everybody deserves what he gets. Now, when you can make people happy, this is the main thing in life, and give them the respect which everybody wants. And to be there, that's a teacher, in time of need. That is being a teacher. So what I say to all, take what's good. Nobody's the same. Throw out what you don't want. And be better than me and your teacher. And that's the greatest thing. Thank you.
Okay, so here we have Ran Steinberg. He is many years with Dennis and in his system, and he just became his 9 Dan. And so, Ran, what can you tell us?
I would just say today we're celebrating Dennis's 84th birthday, and this is a good opportunity to thank you, Dennis, for all you have done to me personally, but to martial art in general. I believe that my job today is to carry on your name and your style and to teach it to future generations. So this thing, Dennis Survival Jiu-Jitsu, will stay forever. I believe that this style has a lot to offer on the physically and the mentally. And our goal, your students, is to show it to everybody in the future. Us.
So, and here we have Yaniv Fine. Also, Yaniv became his 8 Dan. And Yaniv, what can you tell the guys outside?
Well, first of all, again, I want to use the opportunity to say to Dennis, happy birthday. This is a very special day for you and for, how you say it, the family. This is an amazing word, the family, because we're not just kicking and punching. We're all helping each other. We're a part of an organization that contribute to those who cannot afford it and to people with special needs. And we are doing continuation, and we will do continuation to the system. And this special system that combines everything is, I think this is the beauty of the Dennis Hisardut system, which is combined everything.
I would like to ask you a question, which is very important. You talk about your son. This is the greatest thing you can say. I'd like you to tell the story, how you came to me and how your son spoke to me today, and how he progressed because the father and me believed in him, and he believed in himself, and you gave him the chance to do. Can
Yes.
you tell that story?
Yes, this is a special story. My son is now 22 years old, and about the age of 6, something in his body, we discovered that he has an autoimmune problem with his blood, and in general is not supposed to train, do any physical activity. But for me, as his father, and also thinking out of the box, I didn't let go because he was training martial arts in our city where we live, and I didn't want to quit teaching him, and I thought that this will be the present for my child to do continuation, because life is not a walk in the park. You have your ups and your downs, and you need to bypass this problem and find solution. So this problem that my son had in school, there was no chance that they would understand how to adjust to his problem, and I took him as a project. I said, everything is possible. Everything is possible. And in the meanwhile, while he could not be active in the gym in school, I taught him and maintained the level that he was until I would find how to solve the issue. Eventually, what we did is I came to Dennis and I told him, together with my son, that my son wants to train and still continue training. Although we live very, very, very far from the gym, it was very important to me and to my son to do the continuation and never stop, and never stop the belief that it is possible. And together with Dennis, I think we made the impossible. My son was active in the gym like any normal kid in his age, and I would keep an eye on him all time when he was on the gym. And he did the instructor course, and he is the now second black Dan. He did the army service, which is not trivial with his issue. And after doing so, I think we made the impossible together. And otherwise, I think that otherwise, if we let go of the option to give him this, I think this is the school of life, being here at the gym. This is, I think, one of the biggest presents in life that I got as your student. And for me, as a father, was a must to give my child this present and do the continuation. And I think now, after doing the army service, after not letting go of his problem and training anyway, it made him a better person, that you can beat everything. And this, I think this is one of the things that I'm so proud in my life. Beside my work achievements and my beautiful family, sometimes you need to be strong for somebody else in life. And that is for my son. And also I have a younger son that's also training here in the gym. It's very important for me to bring him, although we live very, very far away. So we are kind of an active family. For me, beside my parents that I truly love, Dennis, no doubt you are my guard. You show me the path. Beside my parents, you are my second father, and Shoshi is my second mother. I stay here a lot in the gym. Every time I have my training, I come here to the gym and sit with you and talk about a lot of things. I think for the past 15 years, I think we are so much close to each other. There is no chance that I would come to train and not say hello and ask you how you feel, how is Shoshi, and you are very, very important for me and totally part of my life. And I wish you, Dennis, in this special day, have more years of health and enjoy seeing us, your students, maintaining this amazing synagogue. Our gym is a synagogue. It's parallel to a synagogue. This is where we put everything aside and we learn from you. Each time we're on the mat, there's no time for stop, always progress. And in this humble place, you learn a lot. So thank you very much, Dennis. Have a great life. I love you, really.
I would like to add something very important. What I found out in my life is the mind. So many people go through life and get to a certain breaking point with the mind. Now, if I take one student here, and I can say quite a few, but his story, he was in a war and he came back shell-shocked. Now there are very many things with the mind, but when you get shell-shocked, it's a very difficult thing to go through life again. Because nothing is the same. And your mind can never be 100%. Now, this man came to me. He was a hero, but he came back a broken person. All the time in front of him, he saw death, and his own death. And he came to me, and I could see in his face, in his eyes, his attitude, that this man needed help. By taking him in and showing him the way, the spirit, the direction, and giving him the chance, he is now a 6th Dan. He finished the teacher's course, and he works for me for no money, teaching in the gym, kids, and with me in a correction home for kids. And he does it with love. And he is now married with 3 children. So by taking this man in, his whole life, his own attitude has changed. So a teacher has to be more than a teacher. And he can only understand this himself if he's been through it. Now, one very difficult, and I've had many different cases. One of my students, because of mental attitude, by abuse, mentally, physically, she committed suicide. And then her brother committed suicide. And the 3rd brother committed suicide. Now, I was here to help her, but in the real time of need, I was away. Now, I have many stories. So being a teacher, you can never be a psychologist or a doctor, but sometimes he can be more, because he can be there for you in the whole time of need, and that's the teacher.